reading books and watching videos, hearing lectures or talks about how to control and direct your chi. It can be very frustrating because what you're basically told one of two things. One, you, you use your mind to direct the chi, and or two, you use your breath, but they don't explain how. Okay, and they're not adequate explanations, and it's very difficult. It's like it's this esoteric thing that no one can get. But and the other thing that to understand is that this is a key insight about how it's bad information, or like no one seems to really know what they're talking about. Um, it's not du duplicable by the audience, but also no one explains it using their own original terminology. It's as though they've never experienced it. All right. So I, I wanted to throw my hat in the ring here because for over, let's see, about 20 to 25 years, I did a ton of experimentation with this, with chi. And I've developed over these years my own very elaborate method of controlling and directing chi. And I've explained it to many people, and including like quote experts, and they don't seem to understand it, and it's beyond me. So I wanted to share it with some people, and I'll start off very simply. Okay, the bottom line, what I discovered through experimentation, starting with just a kernel of insight that someone gave me, and this someone was like a yoga guru. She studied, I believe it was in India. She studied on like two ashrams under multiple yogis for years, and is really considered to be an expert. Okay. Um, the insight she gave me was that, and this is all she knew, but she said what they say is that you draw through the breath, you draw the chi down into your dantian, which is that area like around the belly button or just below it. And then on the exhale, you direct it or shoot it to the body part you want to shoot it to. But that's all she told me. So I began experimenting with this when I was running. I am a runner. I stopped for about 3 years, the past 3 years, but I'm starting to get back into it. But all my life I've been a runner. So I would experiment with this in my running. And when I would focus on, like my inhale and, bringing the chi down to my dantian, the only thing I could physically feel was the pressure wave created through my lungs expanding and compressing. So you're think of your when your lungs expand, it's like a balloon blowing up and it's pushing out in every possible direction, right? So imagine you immerse a balloon in water or sand and then blow it up. It's going to push out and move the water. It's going to move the sand, right? Well, that's what your lungs are doing to some extent within your torso when you inhale, right? It's like a balloon expanding. So I realized when I inhale, I can feel a wave of compression, right, from the lungs pushing down, up, down, out, right? But focusing on the downward motion, I can feel a pressure wave that moves down through my stomach into my pelvis. And that was the only energy, chi, that I could feel physically, right? So my theory is you have to feel the energy to be able to direct it, right? That's what I could feel. So I started working with that. Like that's what I know, right? I feel this compression wave, and that the longer I inhale, the more my lungs expand, the further that wave is pushed downward, right? And upward and outward, right? So this is the bottom line, all right? This is the bottom line. What I finally figured out over years, right? I'm talking about years. I really analyzed this and studied it and practiced with it and experimented with it. What I figured out is that when they talk about using your breath to direct the chi, that's what they're talking about, but they never explain it. They're talking about harnessing the pressure wave that you can feel when you inhale and directing it to different parts of your body, right? So when you inhale without thinking, your lungs expand in every direction, right? So they're pushing out and creating pressure in every direction. What you can do, all right, what I figured out how to do, I have about three methods that I use to instead of having this expansion be diffuse, right, and go out in every direction, I have three methods I've developed for channeling that expansion, sort of like, so for example, containing it from moving upward into my head, right? So there's no movement upward, no expansion wave going upward. Um, so I contain it from going upward and just allow it to go downward, right? And so I have three methods of doing this, and I've gotten to the point where I can direct it down um, my left leg, my right leg. I can send it down my right leg and have it stop at my knee, have it stop at my ankle, stop at my foot, or go through the bottom of my foot, right, and diffuse out outside of my body. Um, I can direct it down. Imagine like this is my thigh, down the center of the thigh, the inside of the thigh, the outside of the thigh, the back, the front. Okay. So I've developed this gating method for channeling that expansion wave. And as you can imagine, if you're blocking the expansion, if it's not diffuse, if you're blocking it, say, from going upward, right? And then you're just sending it downward, and then you're blocking it from going down the left leg and just sending it down the right leg, you're going to have a more powerful flow of pressure, right? Going down that right leg, right? So, so that's the bottom line. The second thing I want to mention about this is another component of this is the not just the direction, right, but the amount of expansion of the lungs, right, and how wide that wave is when it moves, right. You're basically kind of creating, when I talk about the wave, right, it's, think of it almost like the way I experience it or feel it. It's like a garden hose, right. So it feels like a channel or a pipe, put it that way, when you eventually channel it outside of the torso, right. It feels like a pipe of energy. Um, but here's the point. I have found that there is a an envelope almost, right, or a barrier around my entire body, right? And if I expand the lungs, I can feel it. And I'm sure anyone else could feel it if they just practiced, right? I can feel that barrier, right? And it's almost like that's the threshold between inside and outside my body, right? Myself, put it that way. I can feel that barrier. And if I expand the lungs so the expansion, the wave or pressure of expansion breaks through that barrier, my attention remains focused outward. If I expand it so it stays contained within that barrier, my attention starts to fall inward. Okay. I start to turn inward. So that's how I started to use. Initially, I was using this approach of channeling the chi for physical exercise, like running. Um, Over time, with my experimentation, I realized, wow, I can also use it for meditation. And this is so, I've really like rationalized this whole thing. I have all this detail, and I can't say it all in one video, right? It would take a lot of videos, but the bottom line is, so here's my point. This method that I have gross chi, what I call gross chi, which is the outward chi, the power chi, like running. And then I have subtle chi, right? Which is when I minimize the outward expansion of the lungs and start to sink inward. And I use the subtle chi methods to meditate. And there's a lot more about this, but I just want to lay that out there because I did a short video, and it didn't get a ton of views. I think it got like 1,000 views, but it got a very high subscriber rate from a small number of views, which tells me there's probably a lot of interest in this sort of material. So I'll end up doing more videos on this, but I just wanted, this is sort of like an introduction.